directives, someone driving the outcome. Yes, it's a manager. So we will explore what is a manager, but first I just want to start my presentation right away. And I want to start us off by talking about who Profiles is. So we are an organization that is dedicated to the growth of people and of talent. And so our work really centers on being able to assess people through our various assessments, give them reflection and insights on what they can be able to do better with the data that we give them. We also run programs to enhance management, and we also have a digital learning platform that helps us also speak about managers and scale-up planning from wherever you are. So these are the brands that we represent. We have psychometric assessments for recruitment and selection, and talent development, and also succession planning. And we deploy this over the life cycle of a person or of an employee. So when you get recruited, we have assessments for that. When you are getting promoted, we have assessment for that. We have team assessments. We have assessments in the area of emotional intelligence under our brand Genos International. We also have assessments that enable us to work better and know each other better under the Everything Disc flagship. And then we also have team assessments under the 5 behaviors of a cohesive team. Now, all these products we do cover at our various webinars, and we give various insights that we have been able to gather as we have moved on and worked within this space of East Africa and actually Africa. So again, welcome. My name is Vicky Karuga, and I've seen some of you have already introduced yourselves on the chat. And right now, what we're going to be exploring is who is a manager and what do they do and what makes them effective. So my first question is, a lot of the times we are very good at what we do. I can see George has said manager is someone who oversees activities of the business, planning, organizing, executing, and continuous monitoring. Very, very true. So we are involved in several activities, and planning is one of them. Organizing is one of them, executing is one of them, monitoring is one of them, and evaluating, and really checking whether whatever we set out to achieve, the objectives are being achieved. So there are 3 things or 3 components that make up a manager's role. The first one is your technical capacity or capability. And I have someone else sharing here, Sarah Waithera, who's been a manager for 7 years. She says, a manager empowers and fosters innovation and productivity from those that report to him or her, leading by example, problem solving, clear communication on goals, and business direction. All very, very good points. And thank you so much, Sarah and George, for sharing those. Indeed, a manager leads by example. They're involved in problem solving, their own problem solving, and also helping their teams be able to problem solve. They are involved in forever being able to clarify and clearly communicate goals and business direction. So these are the 3 things broadly put that define what is involved in management. And the first one is a technical capability, and which is usually one of the biggest reasons why we get promoted to a management role. We get promoted because we know how to do our job really, really well. We're accountable for it. We're reliable. We've possibly gone further to study more than is required for our role to prepare ourselves for the future. When we are asked, we can probably be technical subject matter experts on it. So we have the technical capability that is required for this. Thinking about how the first thing that happens is that we're possibly promoted to management because of how well we can carry out what we do. The technical capacity that we have, we are able to demonstrate and be accountable for the work that we do. And the second thing that a manager does is be strategic about the role. So not only do we have to carry out every day-to-day tasks, but we also have maybe a year, 2 years, depending on your role. Being able to organize events, being able to measure, being able to understand through problem solving, how something else can be achieved even more efficiently than it was prior to checking on various aspects, data points. So we are not only tech. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. So I have a question for the audience now that I'm back is between these three things, if you can distribute how much time you spend in each of these three areas, how much time do you spend doing the technical aspects of your role? Say, for example, if I'm working in accounts, how much time do I spend in the actual books themselves? How much time do I spend in the strategic part of the role? This involves the planning, measurements, predicting, problem solving, and how much do I spend with people, really listening, ensuring that I'm delivering results through people. So how much time am I spending with the people around me? So I just want you to put the results on the chat. So how much time are you spending in these three areas? If you had 100% as your time, do you see yourself spending what percent of that doing the technical aspects of your role? What percentage of that do you see being in the strategic part of your role? And what percentage of that do you see being in the people side of your role? So I'll wait for you to give me your comments and then I will read them and share. I hope that was clear to everyone. Let me see what's coming up. Anything? Let me see if anyone has written anything. How much are we spending on our technical aspects of our role? How much are we spending on the strategic aspects of our role? And how much are we spending on the people aspects of your role? How much time are you spending on the actual doing of work? The actual planning of the work, and how much are you spending in getting to know your team? Let me see some answers. I really want to see what everyone is saying. Okay. We have Mwangi Joseph who says, I spend 25% of my time in the technical aspects of the role. I spend 50% of my time in the strategic aspect of the role. And I spend 25% of my time on the people aspect of the role. Thank you very much for sharing that, Mwangi. And then I have Sylvia who says, I spend 40% on the technical aspects of the role. I spend 40% in the strategic aspect of the role, and I spend 20% in the people aspect of the role. Thank you, Sylvia. I have John who says, I spend 40 on technical, 30 on strategic, and 30 on people. Joyce says 20 technical, 40 on strategic, 40 on people. And Lily says 60 on technicals, 10 on strategic, and 30 on people. And then Sarah says 20 on technical, 40 on strategic, and 50 and 40 on people. Thank you all for that. So we have quite a few answers, and they're very varied. And technical here has spanned from, I think the lowest person who spends time on technical is 20, with the highest being 60%. And then it seems like strategic is, I mean, more or less has between 40 and 50, 30 and 40. I think it's one person with 50. Oh, there's even 10% in strategic, okay. And then we have people being 40, 30, 40, 30. Okay, yeah. So my question to you is, and that's how it starts out. In fact, at the very beginning, when you do get a supervisory role or become a people leader or a people manager, you are doing almost 100% technical work. And so your initial time spent on the role is really technical, sitting down, doing the work, checking the work, sitting with people, correcting the work. And I think you might find that your mantra at that point might have been, if you want something done, do it yourself. Yeah. And that's where we come from, because we're really so good at what we do. That's what we say. If you want something done, do it yourself. But as you grow as a manager and as a leader, you realize that that cannot be your mindset. you cannot be the person who has that particular saying, because it means you'll never be free. It means other people will never grow. And it also means that there will only ever be one way of delivering on anything, which is your way, or the highway. So, one mindset that we have to adopt, as we grow in leadership and in management, is that we are enablers of people, and we do not are not the beginning or the end of anything being done perfectly. So if you want something done well, guide others, show others, coach others, and they will do it well as well. So that's the first thing we talk about. What do you think best practice looks like? And this is just a rhetorical question for your reflection. What percentage do you think, as you grow in leadership, becomes how much time you'll spend in the technical capability, and how much time you'll spend on people, and how much time you will spend on strategic? So that's a question for you. So some of the things, and I think I'm having a bit of a problem here, that we're going to talk about is, why should we shift as leaders in the way that we think? Because the research has showed us that we have long managed to uh, we have long managed outputs and timelines and deliverables. And this is very simply because it comes quite naturally from our technical ability, even from schools of learning. We know that it is easy to measure certain things, certain KPIs. They are tangible. They can be plotted on a graph. So we can, defend them even as they come. And because they're easier to measure, we tend to lean a lot on them to show how well we are doing. But the leadership shift is that the future demands that we as managers have to learn how to inspire people. So we are moving from the era where we told people what to do, where we managed things with precision and logic because the parts were not so many. And now we're moving and saying that we have so many people who really know and are understanding and learning what needs to be done. And what we need to do is to be able to enable them, or to create an environment where they can actually deliver. And this is why then strategy and emotion become very essential and very important. The head will manage the product, the work, from a measurable perspective, and the heart will connect with people through empathy and through understanding. So when we think about a manager, these are some of the things that begin to matter. When we do an assessment, and I think a few of us have been part of an engagement survey that is either done by the organization or driven by your own department. And why do these things matter? The engagement surveys matter because they tell us how much people are what do you call it, attached, or are driven, or feel part of the business and its objectives. And the more people are engaged, the more that they will give, the more that they love working where they are. But Gallup has shown that 70% of engagement is actually driven by the manager. It's driven by their behavior and how they approach things. So a manager is very, very, very essential in the culture that they create and the emotional tone that they set for their team, so that then this team is able to feel like they're part of the organization. They feel like they can perform at their best. They feel like they can persist when times are hard. They feel like they are continuously in need of learning on how to do things better. And when they are asked if their employer is their employer of choice, they can praise the organization and say it's really a great place to work. So results are first emotional before they are logical. And connection is what precedes commitment. If I feel my manager values me, then most likely I will then value my manager, and I'll value the place that I work with. And I feel a sense of loyalty to this person. And so projects don't succeed because we have perfect plans. They succeed because people commit to them. And when you build this emotional foundation as a leader, it becomes the bedrock upon which you can construct your outcomes. And this is especially true in this world we call VUCA, that is volatile, that is uncertain, yeah, and that is basically everyone knows what needs to be done because we have ChatGPT or Deep Seek or whatever other program that we have. So when we feel connected to our work and our leader, we then are able to give that thing called discretionary effort, which everyone is always looking for, which fosters innovation, fosters creativity, fosters resilience, and we feel seen and heard in our projects. So what are the common challenges for managers we find? The first one I have found, especially working with different managers through our programs. In fact, the biggest thing that everyone reports back is difficulty in giving feedback. Guys say, okay, I know I have to give this feedback, whether tough or good, and I have to deliver information about KPIs met or unmet. But how do I do it effectively in a manner that preserves the relationship, but at the same time puts the information that is required at the forefront? And if you think about feedback, you can go back to thinking about a tough manager who you felt for you was someone who really helped you grow because they were tough. But even in their toughness, they were able to focus you back on the things you needed to work on. So how do you develop that finesse? And that's the number one thing that people ask us. How do I become that person? And the second is, how do I delegate effectively? So how do I delegate to the people around me in a way that they are able to take up the task? And in this one, I usually say that communication plays the biggest driver of whether you're able to delegate effectively. And the mindset here is that the response you receive is the communication that you gave. So you as a manager now find yourself being the sole custodian of ensuring that communication has actually happened. So do you do things like ask, what did you understand by that? It seems like it's very laborious, but it's very, very essential because given that we're all different in the way that we think and we solve problems, one word could mean three different things to three different people. So when you're giving instructions, effective communication is checking to see whether the other person understood the instructions the way that you intended them. That is why sometimes you give a set of instruction and you say something is priority, and you come back the following day and someone has done something totally different because they did not understand what you really meant. So communication becomes your prerogative. The second one is balancing relationships with former peers. You move from becoming one of the people to now part of the system, and especially if you move on up quite quickly. So how do you balance that? How do you get out of that discomfort area where now everyone suddenly sometimes begins to see with a bit of suspicion, or sometimes undermine your authority because they're still seeing you as this person who was once their peer. And so they're wondering now what gives you the right to do or say one or two things. So how do you balance that relationship with former peers? The other thing that guys ask around is the pressure to deliver results without micromanaging. So we talked about the mindset towards management right now, and it is delivering through people. And we say that when a manager starts with a team, how you know they're being effective is not because the output they are giving is increasing, but the output of the team put together is increasing. But then that can be very difficult because how do you strike the balance between actually delivering the results themselves, which you're under pressure to deliver, without sitting at someone's desk and guiding them to step one, step two, step three, step four, all the time, and sometimes even taking that monkey on your back. So how do you feel the pressure to deliver, and at the same time lean into conversations such as this one, where we're saying managers have to change their approach. And then the last one is struggling with confidence in decision making and communication. And this is not just the bane of managers, it is a problem across all leadership, because decision making now suddenly feels heavier, and the responsibility has a lot more weight or accountability to it than it did when you were just responding for one or thing or the other. So how do you start having confidence in the way you make decisions? And this one is through actively and intentionally looking for decision-making frameworks that help you become more expansive in the things that you consider. For example, is a very simple framework called the Six Thinking Hats by Edward Bono. And it's a simple concept that says that you can put or have your team pick on a certain aspect of a decision, maybe the most positive outcomes of this decision, the most negative outcomes of this decision, the most creative outcomes of this decision. And I think this is something you can just Google, the Six Thinking Habits by Edward Bono. And it's a very simple framework that can help you be able to look at the facts from different angles and reduce the bias that we have as ourselves. So that is just about 4 things that first-time managers say that they feel challenges them. Now, I'm just going to go to the core shifts to the journey of confident leadership. And I'm just going to talk about 4 things today. The first shift is from task focused to people focused. And when you look around you, the first things that I did as a manager when I was learning the art of management was to sit down and write down a list of tasks that I was meant to do. And these were actual tasks, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the first question I would ask myself is, which of these cannot do without me? And then which of these can I delegate to the other people in my team and my team members? Of course, at first, it seemed like a lot of them I could do. But with time, they become less and less and less, and you're able to delegate more. But what really happened and changed it was asking the team members to look at my task list and also tell me which of the tasks that I had written down did they feel that I could delegate to them and that was still holding on to. And that started a little bit of a journey through trust and being able now to stand in the place of a mentor and a guide rather than someone who is working together with someone and showing them what to do. So questions you can ask yourself around this is, what is your personality and your problem-solving style? Different personalities will look at tasks differently. Now, there are a lot of us who are very task oriented. And of course, our mantra is, if you want something done, do it yourself. We pride ourselves as being perfectionists, and that's not a bad thing at all, because it has enabled us to get to where we are. But in that quest for perfectionism, in that quest for doing everything ourselves, checking everything ourselves, we deny others the chance to also come into the fold and be able to learn from us. So we still remain very task focused and not people focused. So if you're still having a conversation with someone around, so what did you do here? And then when did you move here? You're still focusing on the task. What is it to be people focused? It is to ask questions. It is to understand and be aware of someone else's problem solving style and that it is different. So rather than go from step 1, step 2, maybe the first question is, where are we with this, with what we are doing? What are the challenges we've been facing? Which ones have we managed to finalize? Which ones do you think you need support? Those are open-ended questions that allow people to give input, rather than a checklist. Have we done this one? Yes, no. Have we done this one? Yes, no. The checklist thing or way of being handling people still remains very much people task focused and not people focused. And when we start being able to also read people generally and designate accurately a style, then we also know what they'll struggle with. For example, there are some people in our teams, we know that they are brilliant at crafting ideas, but they're not as brilliant in seeing it to the end. And so sometimes when we really focus on pushing them task-wise to finish that task to the end, we end up shooting both them and ourselves in the foot. But if you're more people focused, it's to understand where this strength lies and possibly the things you need to do to mitigate the lack of achievement of a certain deadline, or where they need support so you can rope in other people to come and help them. So here you're fostering collaboration in the team, that is people focus, instead of focusing on that task that was not completed by a certain individual by a certain time, because you've understood that generally their style, this is where they thrive best. And then, do I know what works best for me and what works best for others? Do I understand that perhaps I am a morning person, and so therefore I am here at 6 o'clock in the morning and I work until about 11 o'clock, but that might not be everyone else's style. So in your team, who are you going to bend a little more for? Who are you going to stretch a little more for? And who are those people who you work effortlessly together? And with the ones you work effortlessly together, those are some places that you might find you start getting biased even without wanting to. And some of the feedback you'll get from your team is, "Oh, likes working with these people." And they might see it from the lens that you're biased, but for you, you look at it from the lens of, I just find it much easier to delegate tasks to these people. A quick win on moving from task focus to people focus is learning to make others feel appreciated. And making others feel appreciated means that you really have to study them, because you just can't have generic comments like "you're wonderful," "you're a star," "you're a genius." Those will only work the first 2 times. You have to start seeing what it is that they appreciate and they appreciate of themselves, and what, when you speak to them, makes them feel that you value them. Some people feel appreciated in general limelight, others feel appreciated in private. And so how can you do and work with that to be able to make sure that people feel appreciated and included? The second shift that we have to do is from control to trust. So from controlling the whole process of how things need to be done to trusting that people have what it takes to be able to carry out that role. So one of the questions I would ask you is, on a scale of 1 to 5, what is your need for control? Because self-awareness is everything. And if you know what your need for control is, then you can mitigate against it. My need for control is probably a 4.5, which means I find it difficult to let go of a lot of things. So then I more than others have to have frameworks surrounding how I take on work and I delegate. Some people, their need for control is 1, which also presents other challenges, because it means they can throw people into the deep end when they're not ready to be thrown into the deep end. They're like, you just go and learn yourself. So what's your need for control? Or are you in that sweet spot of 3 or 3.5? Then once you do that, then you know what you need to help you move towards trust. And trust means it's a process. So it means we have regular check-ins to see and understand where people are at with whatever it is that they're doing, the things that they need learning and support. And they are co-created and agreed these milestones. Second thing is, do I do regular check-ins at meetings of how people are showing up to the task? So not just the task itself, but you yourself, how are you showing up today? What have you brought with you from wherever you've come from? Yeah, and how possibly is that going to affect the work that we're doing here? And then third is, do I seek to listen first before I give my input? Today I had a very interesting conversation with a young lady, and she told me, I am learning not to listen to my feelings, but to listen to what being said. So of course, when we listen to people, and especially because we have walked in their shoes, we know what needs to be done. Our first instinct is to correct. You cannot, your emotions are telling you something is wrong, and I know what to do about it. Yeah, I've done this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. But that way, then people learn that you will fix everything. But do we first listen and listen to the whole story before we give our input and really push the our skill at listening? Do we listen to feedback given to us on our leadership? When someone tells you, I think Madam so and so, this is too much work, I can't finish. Do we listen, or we say something like, but I did this at your age, and I was able to do even more than this. I'm giving you nothing. So am I listening as well to people when they're telling me I feel overstretched here? Or some people telling me, I feel you could give me a lot more to do. Or some people telling me, I think there's another way to do this. So are we first seeking to listen before we give our input? A quick win here is to have informal meetings often because it builds vulnerability-based trust. When people get to know each other away from the work settings, they start trusting each other a bit more because they know a bit more about, the background of people, where it comes from. There's a very short exercise we do called listening to people's stories, how they grew up. And that really helps humanize the settings of a team. The third one is moving from a doer to a coach, the third shift. And questions I can ask you here is, what's your mindset towards coaching others? We have different mindsets when we think about the word coach. And a lot of us think of coach as teacher, as someone who teaches and shows the way of how to do this 1 + 1 = 2. But really, there are so many mindsets that we have that are not really about coaching. The mindset of a coach is that every single person has the capacity to do, and all they need is, generation of insights, support, and basically being prodded and guided. In fact, it's a guide towards putting in the best effort. So what is your mindset towards coaching? Do you think it even works? Do you feel you have to teach more? Do you feel you have to handhold? Because that makes that is everything. And without the proper mindset towards coaching, it would be difficult for you to practice as a coach. And then think about, what are the strengths that make you a coach. For example, if you are a person whose personality style listens more, it means then it's a strength when it comes to being a coach more than a doer. And if you're someone who moves towards a goal, it's also a strength. But then what are those things, challenges that might not make me an effective coach? So those are some of the 3 questions you can ask yourself. How do I move myself from a doer to more of a coach to the people that I'm leading? A quick win here is, if you go into the World Wide Web, there are so many great frameworks that you can use as a coach. There's one very simple one called GROW, which is, can we get a goal? Can we explore our reality right now? Can we explore our options? And can then we set our way forward? So it gives you a framework for having a coaching conversation. And you can have a coaching conversation at any point. You can have a coaching conversation when someone asks you and says they don't know what to do with a certain problem. And you can start by saying, for example, I don't know how to finalize this set of this report. And you can start, okay, so how do you think the report needs to look like? That's setting the goal. And what do we have right now? So what's our gap? And if our gap is learning, then pointing them in the right direction. It takes a lot more time, I know, and a lot more effort, but eventually using the coaching approach enables people to work more sustainably and require less of you with time. And then last but not least is moving from managing to leading. And the questions here I can ask you to ask yourself is, what is again my mindset towards leadership? What do I think leadership is? One of the things I say about leadership is that it grows people. When a leader leaves a room, that person has people who say, I moved from point 1 and now I'm in point 3 or 4 or 5. People are always the better because a leader was there. That's my mindset towards leadership. What's your mindset towards leadership? And that mindset then helps you navigate your journey through leadership. And then once you have established who you want to be and what your mindset is, what are the avenues of learning that are available to you? Because leading is a skill, just like driving, just like washing utensils. Leadership is a skill, and it is learned every single day, every week, every month. And so if you can put yourself in an avenue where you're growing as a leader from a first-time manager, then you're getting the habits that will enable you to become better off as a leader. And then who can I reach out, both near and far, to be my mentor? This can be in books. This can be people that we observe in the way that they lead and we admire them. And this can be people among us who really we can talk to when we have our own leadership problems or conversations. So a quick win here is, start a leadership journal and write down the things in your leadership that you want to grow. Journaling has been told to be one of the ways that we clarify things. We remove them from our head and put them down somewhere and we can see them. And with that, we're able to make better decisions of what we need to do about them. So, in a nutshell, I have covered 4 skills or 4 shifts that as you come in as a manager that you are perpetually thinking about when you're thinking about learning from or growing from being an individual contributor to being a manager and then to being a manager who is a leader and leads others and they grow. So I don't know which of these shifts in that I've talked about that you're doing really well right now, and maybe which of them you could possibly say you would love to do more of. So thank you so much for listening to us. And the last thing I'm going to share is of our Managers Essentials Academy. And this is an academy that we have created from the years of working with managers as Profiles International. And the thing is, we cannot reach everyone because we work with organizations, we grow their managers from when they come in as supervisors, and that journey is normally long. And we realize that we cannot grow with everyone, but we can offer the unique information that we have been able to curate over the years to guide people aspiring to grow their essential skills as a manager. So this academy is just really dedicated to first giving you an assessment for everything DISC, which helps you understand what is your unique management style. And with the Everything DISC assessment, you actually get a platform where you can listen to your podcast about your management style. You can look at other styles. You can understand how to direct, to delegate, to motivate, and to develop other styles. So, for example, my style is a D, and Ds are very confident in what they do. And sometimes, as a manager, they pose a problem because you can mistake their confidence for competence. So, how do you work with a D personality and not tame them down for their confidence, but be able to ensure that you are getting them to check in because they are risk takers and they can start going to Kisumu when you're meant to be going to Mombasa, and you have to be able to rein that in before you get to Kisumu. So the Everything disc assessment gives you that and more. And then we have course for building your confidence within the first 100 days and a cheat sheet of what can you do or what should you do when it comes to the first 100 days of management. This is essential for persons who've just started their management journey, but also essential for people who may have been on their management journey for a while and just want to understand what are some of these things perhaps that I may be doing that are really great, and what are some of these things that I may be doing that perhaps I need to stop. It also tells you about how to inspire, engage, and retain high-performing teams. So there's a lot of work there about teamwork and growing teams. It has an aspect of emotional intelligence, which is really the art and the skill that allows you to be able to connect to others, to listen to others, and to lead effectively from a point of influence. So with all that, then you can be able to build your personal brand as a people focused, as trusted leaders. And all you have to do is you can scan this QR code for more information. The landing page gives you a lot more information around what does the essential skills for the Managers Academy have, but really, really, really a great way to start to enhance your management journey as a leader. So we talk about transform how you manage and elevate how you lead. For further information, you can also call us or WhatsApp us on the number 254 722 457777. And right now we have a one-time offer of 35% for persons who are enrolling into this particular course at the moment. So I want to stop there and ask you as an audience to share any questions that you might have. Um, the contacts, how you can reach us are on the World Wide Web. And I think I'll take questions at this time. Back to you. Any questions that we might have? You can put them on the chat and then I will be able to read them out. Still have a few more minutes. Okay. I see there's a link there. I can see there's a thank you from Celine. You're very, very welcome. I can see Mercy. Yes. Do you have one-on-one coaching? Yes, you do have one-on-one coaching, Mercy. You can just reach out to me, but I can also take your details and then we can get back to you and get in touch with you, Mercy. Thank you. And for anyone else who's interested in one-on-one coaching, we just leave your details on the chat and we shall definitely reach out to you. You're welcome. Any other questions that you might have? So how do you balance between management and delivering results when the pressure is too much? So it's a process because of course you do not want to let the results what do you call it? You don't want the results getting to a point where they are affecting everything as a manager. But it's also a sign, yeah. It's also a sign that there is an imbalance between either the delegation aspect or communication aspect. So once the pressure has eased off a little bit, because when pressure is there, you really can't think, and that's just human nature. But once the pressure has eased off, I would encourage you to sit with your team and be able to see what are some of the things that not went wrong from a task perspective, because that one is easy to do. We didn't do this, we didn't do the other. But what also went wrong from a team perspective? And remember when I shared at the very beginning, I said one of the tools that I did as a first-time manager was to write down the list of tasks that I could have delegated or that I didn't delegate well. So you can have a session such as that to understand what are some of those things you can start delegating and communicating early enough. The first part. The second part is what part of your communication sometimes is not clear. I have been in a situation where I have given instructions and I have thought we are all on the same page. Then I come back after a week and this was supposed to be priority. It was placed in priority 4. Someone else has taken something else that was totally irrelevant in my view, and that's what they prioritized. So that's a sign that communication did not happen. I did not communicate effectively because I didn't receive feedback from the other person to tell me that this is how I see things, right? So we went on different tangents because at the beginning we didn't check for alignment. So that's another thing, checking around communication of our targets. And then now being able to create a milestone framework for you and the team where you can keep checking for progress so that you don't find yourself at the place where the pressure was just too much. Remember, pressure is seasonal, but you can try and create buffers and create better habits that allow you not to always be overwhelmed. If you're always overwhelmed, then I think there's a problem. So first, deal with the pressure. When it eases off, do a reflection with the team. Sit down, think about not just the task, but the people aspect. Reflect on the delegation, the communication, the ability to check on milestones, and what frameworks or processes you have for yourself on that. And that should really help you start turning around. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Joyce. You're very welcome. You ask a very important question, John. Robert John. Can we say leading is superior over managing, or do we have to find a balance between both? When people talk about managing, sometimes it feels like this, dirty word because guys say, are you a manager or a leader? But manager kind of gives the sense of a relationship of one-to-one. So where I sit with you and I sit with you and I sit with you. So we are managing tasks one-to-one. Leader is one-to-many, where I sit and we are this team and we're going through what we're meant to be doing together as a unit. That's what I've always taken leadership to be. And you're growing further in leadership because your relationship of one-to-many keeps increasing. On one point, you had 2 people you were managing, and you were managing them basically the day-to-day, and you are letting them go. And the more you are letting go, the more you are able to bring more people under your wing and growing in your sense of leadership. So I think leadership is well, I would say it is a growth into from managing into leading is something you grow into. I wouldn't say management is less superior, because it's just like saying, were you less inferior when you were a baby? You had to pass through that stage to get to teenagehood, to get to young adulthood. So maybe you were inexperienced, but I mean, the art of being a baby or being a teenager was essential, totally essential to be the person who you are today. Yeah. So let me see what else is coming through. Yes, please look up those coaching frameworks. And if you do enroll on the course, there are several courses on coaching. Takeaways from the meetings, I can see is there's a note taker that has given us a takeaway. How do you apply what you said in a highly political environment, even when you're a manager? The art of playing politics is also another skill. I have a coach who actually teaches people how to navigate politics. And the problem with politics is that if you don't understand that skill very well, you find yourself most of the time caught flat-footed and in situations that you don't want. And sometimes you even find yourself leaving who you are to try and deal with things reactionary. So you're reacting to this, you're reacting to the other. It's a skill you need to learn, because the more people you manage, the more there are politics. In emotional intelligence, we believe that you have the ability to influence others, but you have to do that first by having a centered self. You have to be highly self-aware, understand your triggers, focus on the end game and what you want. So those are some of the things you have to start learning actively, so that even when you get into a place of political, high tension and everything, it's only the centered people who always seem to be able to take advantage of whatever situation they are in, and slowly turn them to situations that either benefit them or benefit the teams that they have. And you have all these people around you. So for me, look for the person who seems to be most politically adept, let them mentor you. You cannot escape politics, and unfortunately, you have to learn to navigate highly political environment. If they are not your cup of tea, then maybe you have to learn to exit. Because again, not everything is for everyone. I even say that I don't think leadership is for everyone. Sometimes we want to be a leader and grow in leadership, but it really demands so much of us. It really does, because once you choose to be a leader, you give up a lot of yourself, because now you're taking care of others to a really large extent. You know, that graph we had for technical strategy and people, you spend a lot of time on people. And that can be very, very, very draining. And I think sometimes we should have the ability to just say, nope, this is not for me. And there are people who do it much better. So thank you all for joining, and thank you also for your very, very warm comments. I am really hoping that we've taken away one or two things. I think the journey of leadership is rewarding in and of itself, despite the other perks that come with being a manager. And do reach out to us if you need any help whatsoever. We're always here. We are available in all our socials as Profiles International EA. You can find me as Vicky Karuga on LinkedIn especially, and I would love to connect with all of you. Thank you so much. I wish you a lovely evening. Take care, everyone.
Vicky?
Yes, Liz?
Yeah, this is Rose.
Yes, Rose.
There is a question that was asked. It was saying the discount on the cost runs till when? That was Rose Nyoike who asked the question.
I think it's November. It is November. Rose Nyoike, it is November. Sorry, I didn't respond to that.
Thank you.
And we will be sharing communication, yes. Thank you very much. Asanteni sana. Thank you very much. Have a lovely evening. God bless. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.